take us back to that day that you got the vaccine.
From that day, it has been a living nightmare for the rest of my life. It's like living in the matrix and you can't get out. You've already lost who you were as a person, and you're losing everything that you've ever built up for, all your savings, everything. And when you see everything dwindle away, you just feel like you don't matter. If the government cared, if other people cared, more people would be studying us. The government just overlooks us. There's no state and federal money. Nobody's doing anything. It's like, how do you do that to somebody? How do you do this and watch them suffer until they want to die, commit suicide, look into self-euthanization? And a lot of us are getting worse instead of better. I'm not going to let any of them down. So I will sit there and knock down doors until they get the help they need. And I told them I would continue until I have no breath left.
Welcome to the React 19 podcast, where we bring awareness and support to the COVID-19 vaccine injured and discuss the science, research, and laws that affect all of us. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again today. I'm Ann Forty with the React 19 podcast, and today my guest is Chelle, who is also affectionately known as Hurricane Chelle within the vaccine-injured community because of her strong and powerful advocacy for bringing awareness to the COVID vaccine-injured. Chelle is a professional healthcare worker and a mother of 3 sons in the Navy. And before her COVID vaccine injury, she was very fit and was out doing Spartan races with them. But that was all before the COVID vaccine took away both her career and her vibrant health. Chelle is truly a warrior who, despite her debilitating injuries, continues every day to fight, and fight she does on so many levels. Chelle, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, what I'd like to do, since there are probably people listening in who don't know your story. I mean, there are a lot of people who do, but certainly there are those who don't. If you could just take us back to that day that you got the vaccine, tell us what happened, and really, you've been on an incredible journey. And when I said that you're a warrior. We've talked about this before. You don't leave anybody on the battlefield. And I think of how injured you were, and your story will convey that, but yet you keep going. But again, let's go back to that day that you got that shot that changed your life. The mic is yours.
Thank you. I was hurt by the second dose, and it took 40 minutes. You had 30 minutes where they watch you in a room. I walked out after the 30 minutes. I wasn't feeling well. I ended up sitting on the side of my car on a curb, and I felt weakness and fatigue right away. It's like I couldn't keep my eyes open. It felt like pens sticking out of my skin. It felt like an ice pick into my legs. It was waist down that I was having a hard problem with. The rest of my body, I was tremoring. It felt like I was on fire inside. I contemplated going back into the facility that I worked at, but I thought if I go home and sleep it off, it would go away. My whole family's been in the military, so suck it up, walk it off. That was the kind of thing that I had in my head. I did go home. I felt worse, and I actually didn't wake up to the next day. I was in bed for almost 24 hours. I didn't get up at all. When I woke up, I had inflammation all over my body. I couldn't move from waist down. It felt like I had bricks on top of my legs. I still felt like I was on fire. Everything I felt the day before was amplified by 10.
Oh my
And I've
gosh.
never felt so much pain in my life. I would have rather give birth 1,000 times than what I felt that moment. I actually you feel like, oh my God, are you dying? So I kept
Well, that's
thinking,
what I was going to say. I mean, there must have been like a sense of terror in you. Like, what is going on?
there was, but I'm by myself. And what was I going to do? Do I lay in bed? What do I do? I couldn't reach my phone. Um, I couldn't move my left side. It was my left leg and left arm. Um, I ended up with my right leg, kicking my leg over anyway. I tried to sit up. I couldn't. I fell out of bed and I just laid on the floor and I just started crying and I didn't know what to do. I still couldn't reach my phone. So I um, finally got up to where I could crawl because I used to do Spartan races. So even though my left arm was hurting me and I had the inflammation, you can crawl under the barbed wire. That's basically what I did. And I could use my right knee. I went in there and I pulled myself up on the counter in the bathroom. And when I looked at myself, I knew that was the scariest moment in my life. I didn't know what to do. I mean, it's to the point where even if I tried to sit, I couldn't get back up. I mean, if you wanted to use the toilet, you couldn't get back up. I was stuck. I was holding on to furniture, walking around, didn't know what was wrong with me. And when I called the facility where I had it done, they told me that I must have a pre-existing condition and they
Oh
dismissed.
my gosh.
And
40
I'm somebody
minutes,
that
40 minutes after you took the vaccine and you have
yeah,
this reaction and they're saying what? It has nothing to do with the vaccine at that point. They were just saying, "Oh, is that what
they dismissed me. They're like, oh, maybe it's some other medication. The only medication I was on was Synthroid for my thyroid. I
Right,
was
right.
in perfect shape running. I was getting ready to do a Spartan race coming up. I was waiting for my boys to come in from the Navy. And that's all it took. And that from that day, it has been a living nightmare for the rest of my life. It's like living in the matrix and you can't get out. And obviously I swallowed the wrong pill, but it's just, from that moment, I ended up getting worse. And, um, the doctors were trying to dismiss me. I had all kinds of blood work done. Finally, I had a neurologist that took me seriously. And while I was in his office, he did a EMG um, to see how my muscles were. I failed the neuro test. And when I went to get up off the table, um, I couldn't walk. I couldn't get to my car. So he told me to go to the emergency room. Um, and that was the first week. And it took me that long. It took me from January, because I was hurt January 11th, 2021. And I saw him at the end of February, beginning of March. The 19th of March, I had another test and I couldn't move. And I was in the emergency room that night. So if it wasn't for him, um, I don't know what I would have done at that particular moment. But
I
that was the first time I got IVIG.
okay, so I just don't think that people can comprehend because I'm familiar with your story. And when you say it's been a living hell over the last 3 years, I don't, people can't really comprehend that what you've gone through, except for, those of us who followed you and we're all like, how is this happening? How does this happen? And so when you're in the emergency room, what are they telling you? What are they saying?
Actually, they were going to dismiss me. They told me my blood work was fine and they were going to send me home. If it wasn't for my doctor coming in to the emergency room 15 minutes before they were going to discharge me, I would have never been admitted into the hospital.
That's
He
incredible.
originally thought I had GBS, which is Guillain-Barré syndrome. Um, he wanted me to be treated right away because every week I was getting worse. I was trying different medications, Cymbalta, Lyrica, gabapentin, nothing worked. Um, everything they threw at me wasn't working. They had me seeing rheumatologists, immunologists, hematologists, and everybody would look at me and just dismiss me. But if it wasn't for him, I don't know what I would have done. It's when he was, after I saw him that week in the hospital, I went back 2 weeks later, and he thought the 1 week of treatment was going to be good. I ended up going backwards, and that's when I ended up going to a specialist at Shands University, where I have been on IVIG. It was at an infusion center for 35 months, where I sat there for 6 hours. I did that for 35 months, and I lost my insurance. So there was 2 months that I was off of my IVIG. So I went backwards. I couldn't walk again.
I want to just
And
stop for a minute. Can you explain to people what IVIG is? And
it's intravenous immunoglobulin. That's plasma, because I have an autoimmune issue, and it's to help people with autoimmune issues. You can help people with GBS, lupus, someone with, like me, CIDP, and many others. It helps because we have demyelation of our short and long nerves, and this is the only thing that stabilizes us. So this is the only thing that works, and people don't realize this is expensive. It costs
yeah,
$15,000 a month.
right. And that is something um when you talk about it, I do want to say your situation where nobody believes, oh, your blood works fine, we're not finding anything, it's all in your head. I mean, that seems to be the a commonality in a lot of vaccine injured where you're just this total dismissal, and it wouldn't have needed to happen because it needs to be made clear that the FDA, the CDC, and NIH knew in January of 2021 that these injuries were taking place. They were flying vaccine injured out to Maryland to study people. Bree Dressen was one of them. So they knew these injuries were happening. They knew that people needed help, and they needed help right away, but they did not tell, and they didn't tell it to the public. They didn't tell it to the medical community. So here you come, you're stuck. Had people been aware, had the CDC come out and said, hey, be aware, these things could happen, Shelley could have gotten help. But instead, Shelley's lived just a hell for the last 3 years. So, and you're right about that IVIG treatment. A lot of people are on it. It's so expensive. When you told me that you lost your insurance, I was like, what in the world is this woman going to do? So what happened there? Why didn't your employer recognize this? Let's talk about that a little bit.
I was on short-term disability, extended short-term disability. When it came for my long-term disability, all of a sudden they told me that I had a pre-existing condition, and they denied me. Even though I put it into appeal, they denied me. So
What was the pre-existing condition they said that you had?
they never would tell me. I'm red flagged out of my records. This is a different company that they have. They told me that that was all that they could tell me, and then basically I would have to get an attorney to know any more information. Yeah. So I've put in for disability through Social Security, but that takes a long time. I'm still waiting to see if I get Medicaid, and Medicaid isn't really going to help me the way I need to be helped. Um,
Oh, and I
the
think we should let people know that there was something called the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program that was supposed to help people who would have been gotten injured by this countermeasure. The vaccine was called a countermeasure. And because the vaccine manufacturers they have no liability, that this countermeasures program was set up, but we now know like 98% of the people have been rejected. And I do believe you yourself have been rejected for that.
I have been rejected. I put in my claim October of 2021, and um, it went into review March of 2023, and I was denied February of 2024. Even though I had all the documentation, they denied me.
And did they give you any reason for denial?
There really wasn't a reason. They gave me 4 pages of gibberish that had nothing to do with my injury. I mean, I would love to send it to you so you can laugh at it. They mentioned me having Hashimoto's and everything else. I had sent them everything with all my infusions, all my medical records from every doctor from the very beginning when my test results were starting. I mean, they were worried about me having a heart attack in the beginning.
Right.
I was in and out of the hospital for a long time. It was I had all the proof and documentation, including all the diagnosis and what I was going through, and they still denied me. I believed them when I turned in my injury to Pfizer and also the injury compensation program. I believed that I would be watched and taken care of. I had no clue that I was going to be abandoned. And it's not just me, it's all
Thousands.
my family that's out there.
Yeah, no, I want to make that perfectly clear and state it again. This has happened to tens of thousands of people. And really that is why React 19 exists, because React 19 has given out, like, I think the injury compensation program has given out what, maybe $40,000
I
to
don't even think they've given out that much.
yeah, I mean, and they've denied 97% of the claims, whereas React 19 is given, I think it's close to 1 million now. I know it's over 800,000. And that's just
Right.
with people donating. People send in $10, $20, whatever it is, and that just goes right back out to the injured. And I just want that message to be heard, that your story is the story of thousands, tens of thousands of others. And it is so tragic. And you have done everything you can to just make people aware of this. And maybe we can talk about that now. You were part of DeSantis's, well, talk about that. You were part of that, I think, a grand jury investigation. You're out at meetings. Tell us all the things that you've been involved with.
I was on Governor DeSantis roundtable, along with Stephen. There was 2 of us that day. That's when they said that they were going to have grand juries and have investigations. Since then, 3 others have gone on, or 2 others, Deidre and Lindsay, and all of us feel like nothing has happened, nothing has moved forward. We still don't have the help that we need. There's still not investigations with Big Pharma. We still don't have state and federal money to help us. We cry for help and there's nothing. There's no clinics. There's clinics for long COVID, but there's not anything for people that are vaccine injured because we're not acknowledged on the VICP. With Governor DeSantis, I believe that we had hope. I really thought
Yeah,
that we would be having help at this moment, along with Surgeon General Latipo, but we're still sitting here. We are still not getting the help, and we feel like we're still not being heard. So in some ways, I feel like we've been used as props for their political gains. I keep praying that someday that they will help us, but we keep waiting. For a lot of us, it's been 3.5 years, and a lot of us are getting worse instead of better.
exactly.
But I've even
Exactly.
come up with more diagnosis. So it's just, I mean, from CIDP to microclotting, MCAS, the tremors, tinnitus. I'm just taking more and more medications. I'm on anticoagulants. Eliquis alone is $500 a month without insurance. And that's not the rest of the 30 medications that I take. And we're all fighting, and we need them to realize that we need our disabilities pushed through. We need to have medical emergency medical right away. because there's a lot of us that can't be treated, diagnosed, and a lot of us are sitting here not knowing, do we pay our rent? Do we pay our medications? Do we stretch out our medications? Or there's some people living in cars. I don't know where I'm going to be living next month. So
It's
it's,
incomprehensible. It is absolutely incomprehensible. And I'm just gonna no, I'm gonna save that question for the end. Um, is there any communication at all back to DeSantis or Latipo?
I have called, multiple people have called. There's been no return phone calls, nothing. You can give a message and that's it. I've been, that's why I go and speak out at the legislation delegation meeting. All the senators are sitting there. I want it recorded. I want it heard. And I know Governor DeSantis watches it. I also know that I have a nickname. It's not nice, but they watch me because they know that I go into every county commissioners meeting. I hit every city around in my county, and I talk to the city commissioners' offices. I've talked to the mayors. I've been in the senator's office speaking to them personally. And I know, like, one time I went and leave and I said, yeah, I know the police station is like 3 blocks down the road. I don't care. I'm like, I've already lost everything. What am I supposed to do? I
What
wasn't
is their
rude.
response?
They just look at you. And the thing is, I was angry that I had my life taken away from me. I was angry that I couldn't walk or run and do, like, when your kids look at you and say you're mom, but you're not mom, you never forget that. Never. And I've lost a piece of me. But when you, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to have to play their game. So you have to learn, I'm known as Hurricane Chelle, but you also have to calm down and realize you have to communicate like they communicate. And you notice that once you start communicating, they start having a little bit of trust in you once they know that you're not angry. So I've had to learn to control myself a lot and be able to talk to them the way they talk to me. And I know that when I go in there, I can always ask for 3 things, and I may get 2 of those, or I may get 2 of those answers, but we're starting to have a pattern where I go in there and I say, I need this, I need that. And if they say no, I sit there. They know that now they do all these multiple emails. They call me, they watch I've made such a fuss. They watch what's going on with my disability. I said, I want you to see how slow and what I have to go through. They're also watching my Medicaid. 2 different senator offices are watching it. And that's because I stood in front of Courting Mills when he came here
Right.
about, a month and a half ago. It was a mile and a half down the road, and I went there. And he was saying how great our governor was. And I let people clap for a few minutes to give respect. And then I yelled out, he still needs to help the vaccine injured. Later on, he did turn around and say he acknowledged me for being vaccine injured and that I was a hurricane and etc. But it was like a pat on the head. I
Mm.
appreciate that he acknowledged me, but until we get bills passed to save us, like Cody's Law,
Cody's
and
Law. Yeah.
Cody's Law.
Mm. And you know what? I'll just say what that is, and I'll put all the information for Cody's Law in the show notes. And that is um, and my interview with Heather, Cody's mom, that's legislation that needs to get passed now. That's calling for immediate help for the vaccine injured. Since you guys have nowhere to go, there's because of the PrEP Act, you can't sue anybody. Nobody's listening to you. And it's like there's so much evidence now. There's so much evidence. I mean, you have the Hope Accord that was just an initiative that was just started like a week or 2 ago. These are thousands of doctors and medical professionals who are calling to stop the COVID vaccines for now because the damage is there, it's documented, and that you are sitting here languishing. And I don't think, again, there are people who have insurance that, they're getting through, but there are so many more people like you who, like you said, you don't even know where you're going to live next month. So
Yeah,
do you still have your GoFundMe?
I still
Okay,
have
well,
it.
I'll make sure the link for that is in the show notes too. And anybody who's listening, it doesn't matter if it's $5 or 500 or 5,000. It, it uh, it will go where it's needed, and everything is appreciative. But so how are you functioning?
I'm living on a prayer.
Mm.
Um, I was losing hope when I lost the IVIG for 2 months. I went back and I'm using a cane again when before I wasn't. I live on the second floor. And I was, after being on IVIG for so long, I was able to move. I have difficulties getting in and out of my car because it sits lower. It's not a higher vehicle. It's always harder to get my left side in. If I stand for long hours at a time, it goes up my back, and I feel miserable, the fatigue and weakness. There was, during that time, I'm Hurricane Chelle, but there was times where I actually just wanted to give up and get my car and drive until I had no other place, ran out of gas and didn't come back. Um, you know, my kids keep in contact with me. They give me hope. There's a lot of people that are injured that love me, that give me hope. I don't admit sometimes that I'm defeated, but I'm just like everyone else. I've used up all my savings. Um, it was a prayer. It was a blessing when I got my sub-Q IVIG. I mean, that is really like unheard of. I get it. It's paid for a year. When God gives you a blessing like that, that means you keep fighting.
Wow. So
And
that was just was
little
that
pieces of
through
hope.
uh, just a program you found out about, or how did that happen?
I had a prescription because I wanted to try the I mean, the sub Q before I lost my insurance. So I called the manufacturer. I called every help link that they have. I went through 50 of them. I have everything written down. A lot of them don't give out services anymore. I finally found one that I filled out the application and they asked me for my diagnosis. I mean, I let them see that I filed for disability through Social Security, Medicaid, um, and all they want to give you is like an EBT card, once you file for um Medicaid. Um, and they called me back like a week later and they told me that I got the grant. I was thinking it was only for like 3 months or whatever, and I was like, okay, I'll just figure out what to do. Um, they gave me a year. And I was like, you know what? I prayed and I laid everything at God's feet. And I changed how I was speaking to people. I changed how I was thinking and how I projected myself. And I wanted to do the work of God and to help other vaccinated because I always said I wouldn't leave anyone behind. I got this. Um, it is a huge blessing and it's made a difference because I was off of it for 2 months and I couldn't hardly walk again. I was in pain. I was miserable. I had bad thoughts in my head and I just didn't want to do it anymore. Monday was my 6th week being on it and I actually can get up and down from the chair. I can walk in my house. Um, I still get tired. I still get fatigue. This is something new. It doesn't work like the IVIG going into your veins, but this gives me hope, along with all my medications and things like that that I have to take. But it's a lot to take in that when you're healthy and now you're dependent on a medication to help you do your everyday living and to stay alive. And
we need
people need
change
to know this.
before your year is up. There has to be change so that
Oh,
when
it here has to happen because once this is done, also I lose my neurologist and immunologist. So I'll be praying a lot, and I'll be working even harder to try to make sure that I don't lose everything or my health again.
I don't,
These are the challenges we have.
I just want to make a call out here to those who are not vaccine injured. I am not vaccine injured. And I literally just every time I hear, I mean, I've watched you now for well over a year, and it motivates me. So Monday, this coming Monday, I'll be speaking out at I mean, I go to the county commissioner meetings, and I'm going to our public health department board meeting, and I will be speaking about you. I mean, meaning like, hey, you have to know every single time that you're giving a COVID vaccine or those that are under authority under you, they have to no one has had proper informed consent, and they need to know, here are the risks. Here are the risks. You're not going to be recognized by your government. Your health teams will have no idea what to do with you. You may very well go bankrupt. I mean, people need to know this. I just cannot believe all that you have lived through and all the others have lived through, and that people are just on their daily lives, doctors just whatever, like what, And so for those who are not injured, and you may hear this, do what you can to get this information out to your local newspaper, your radio station, to your senator, to your congressman, to your public health officials. It doesn't take I mean, if Shelley can do it, I have this was something you said the other day, Shelley. I wrote this down. Um, you said, dig as deep as you can and get out there. And then you said, today was hard, but I did it anyway. And that is the mindset that we all need to, not just the injured, but especially those of us who are not injured, to know that this is your fellow man languishing, hoping beyond hope somebody's going to do something, and so that they they can stay in their home so that they can get the treatment they need. It's a whole lot easier for us who aren't injured, and we should be out there doing it. And so, Shelley, I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry that you're continuing with this, that you haven't been acknowledged, but we're gonna just keep working at it. And like you said, I have seen you again and again come alongside people and help them, whether it's in your actions or your words, whatever you can do, and you go out. Some other things you do is you just, maybe wear a t-shirt or something, and you go out to, I think you mentioned this in the last week or so, where you'll just be out and, have a t-shirt on about your injury, and people will start talking to you.
Yeah, I went on the 4th of July. I wasn't feeling good. I took my cane out there, and it says Pfizer vaccine injured and government lied to us on the back. And usually people will be standoffish and not want to talk to you. So that was the first time that I had people lined up around me,
Wow.
talking to me, asking me questions, and telling me that they knew someone for hospital clothes, that they knew about somebody else, or they had an injury, and how do they go about reporting it. And so I had that opportunity to listen to them and also to educate them. And in my community, if you don't see it, say it, or hear it, it doesn't happen. So for the first time, it was like a light went off for me, and it also gave me more hope. And these senators and congressmen and all these county commissioners that are up for reelection, I have made it public that I will go to every ribbon cutting. I will go to every like event. They have like family days, they have like an art festival or a truck day or whatever. I show up and I let them see me because I know they're going to be at every event because they need their votes. Like last week, I even went to, it was at a church. I went there. I went a little late because I wanted to make an impression going in there. I went in there and I waited for the opportunity and I took over the meeting and he allowed it. And this is that
Wow.
county commissioner. And he said at the end, he goes, "You're going to follow me everywhere, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "So you're going to love me or you're going to hate me?" And so I have a respect. He lets me talk. He could cut me off anytime he wants to, but he knows what I'm going through is wrong. But they all tell me that their hands are tied. And like people in their office will say, "I'll pray for you. There's nothing we can do for you." There is something you can do for me. There is, because other offices, senator offices, have showing me how to communicate and get what I need. And they also find me people in different offices that I need to get my information to. There's just a different way you have to talk to them. So I have to watch how I articulate my words with them. But I'm finding people that'll actually help me. But in our case, the only problem is it's not soon enough for us. We need it now. And it's to make them know. I mean, even when I was off my IVIG, I went to their office and I stood there and I was crying and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And they said, "I'm sorry." And I was like, "We'll pray for you." And I just looked at them and I was like, oh, I shouldn't say this, but I said, "I'll tell you when you can pray for me. You know, you can do something for me." And I'm like, so if something happens to me, then I'm going to make sure that people know that you have your hands in this. All
People,
of a sudden,
I
attitude.
mean, it's hard because people need to be held accountable, and I don't know what it's going to take. Um, I mean,
It
there
feels like
are,
you're a mom and you're scolding people.
yeah,
And I don't want to be that type
I
of
know,
person.
I
But
know, I know.
look in
But
their
I mean,
eyes and do it.
yeah. And then you have the issue. So let's talk about your care and the care that other vaccine injured go through, where people may be selling supplements um and I believe people's intentions are probably good, but like it's you'll see somebody, oh, take some, I don't know, take zinc or whatever. Oh, try this, whatever. And I mean, have any of your supplements helped? I mean, do they help? What what can you say about this?
I believe everybody should do what they can to help themselves, and their journey is their own journey. I
Okay.
know in my case, it is not working for me. I've had the testing done when I go to Vaughn. Actually, I'm going tomorrow again to Alabama to get more testing done, and I'm shipping some out as well. I have the proof of my MTHFR. I'm modified. I was making just under 2000 in spike. While I was off the IVIG, I went up
So you're still
600.
making spike.
They thought that by being on the IVIG, that it was increasing my spike. It's not. It's stabilizing it. And I'm going to go get another test done to show where I am now that I'm 6 weeks back on it. There was a lot of other testing that was off that for three years we've been asking for tests and no doctor has done it. At least I finally knew where I was, what I needed to do. Some of the supplements, like I B12 and your D3 and things like that, yes, they were off, and yes, I needed those. But the problem is, it's not fixing the problem. I can keep doing all these tests. A lot of the injured are doing their own tests. Like we're helping each other. The injured are helping the
Right.
injured. But when you go somewhere and you speak, And then you have somebody say, an elite doctor say, we don't even know if you're making spike. I have the proof.
Yeah.
Just look at it. Just look at it. The only thing that we're asking is to be studied, to communicate with us, to
Exactly.
unite, not to fight against each other. Here's
Exactly.
what we need and here what we want. Look at our tests. Tell us if we know there's not a cure. You can make my quality of life better, and you can
Right.
also find ways to help future generations to not have to go through what I'm going. I don't want my grandkids going through this. I don't want your grandkids going through this, or anybody in your family,
Right.
because there was days where I wasn't feeling good. I mean, one of my sons had to come home and take care of me for 7 months. That was in the Navy, because I couldn't do my everyday living. And I was crawling on the floor because I couldn't walk. Nobody should live like that. Nobody should. And my case isn't even as drastic as a lot of people that I speak to. There's people that have it much worse than I do. So I have to put myself in their shoes, and we have conversations all the time. I can't do this anymore. I just went out. I understand them. And to give them hope, we have to continuously give each other hope. But we're 3.5 years in, and we just need more. We need someone to study us. We need clinical trials. We need microscopes. If you need biopsies, you need our anything. We are offering it, but no one's taking it. So we're hoping that someday someone takes us seriously. But for some people, the supplements work and they don't have the issues like I and many others do. But at this point, I and a lot of the other ones that we've been speaking out for a long time, we're just getting worse. I mean, I have friends that are in heart failure now that weren't a
No.
year ago, on oxygen. Right before I lost my insurance, I was seeing a cardiologist because I'm having issues. I know that I'm getting worse. This past year, I've gotten worse, but there's so many that need help, and we just need the doctors to listen to us. That's
The
it.
wealth, yeah, the wealth of knowledge that all of you, I've been in those Twitter spaces with you guys, and I always think, geez, if doctors could just hear everything you guys have learned so much. I mean, so many of the injured, I mean, the amount of information that you can share and that you have, and there are doctors out there, I mean, that do want to do this. And again, the React 19 is trying to get their nonprofit started of the Revive Clinic to do just that, have these doctors that will do everything that they need to do to help you. And they're waiting on the government for their status to go through and all of that. And of course, all of this needs great funding. But the wealth of knowledge that all of you have is unbelievable. And I was going to ask you the question I was going to ask you before, and you've alluded to it a little bit, but I mean, from the outside looking in, and I see your guys' lives, and I just, how how have you not lost hope? How 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 do you keep going? You said this was another thing. You had said in one of your interviews, no one deserves to feel like they are not wanted and that you don't matter. And you've said that's how you've felt, like I don't matter, nobody cares, I'm not wanted. How how do you keep hope, and how would you encourage others in your situation to keep hope?
When all this happened, I lost a lot of friends, and I even had family members that I haven't spoken to. It took, it took 17 months, me being sick, to even find out there was more people out there like me. So when your family abandons you and where you work, they abandon, harass, target you, discriminate. And it's not just them, it's the government, it's people that you talk to and tell them that these things happen and they don't believe you. You've already lost who you were as a person, and you're losing everything that you've ever built up for, all your savings, everything. And when you see everything dwindle away, you just feel like you don't matter. Or if the government cared, if other people cared, more people would be studying us. The government just overlooks us. There's no state and federal money. Nobody's doing anything. It's like, how do you do that to somebody? How do you do this and watch them suffer until they want to die, commit suicide, look into self-euthanization? There's days that I've sat in my house, weeks, this past month, I have not turned on the TV and I've sat in the dark. Do I tell anybody? No. It does everything I can because of the new relationships that I have in this movement, that I've met some friends that I can call my best friends, that I can talk to them till 4 o'clock in the morning while we're talking each other out of suicide or just disappearing. If it wasn't for those conversations, I think I would have lost it. And then one of my sons called me not too long ago, and I'm just like, before I got this medicine, I was getting dark again, and he can tell a pattern with me. Um, I was lucky he came in from the Navy, and he just looked right at me, and he said, "Don't you dare leave." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You have that look in your eyes." And he said, "You'd be cheating us out of a mom, and you would be getting the easy way out, but we have to live with it." It made a lot of sense. I guess if he listened to me as I was raising him, you know, but it's a lot to take in. And when people don't believe you or people have moved on and they don't care that you're sick, it's we've already lost our jobs and our identity. Where do we fit in life now? Where do we go now? What kind of life am I going to have? What can I do? Will I ever be able to work? Will I ever, am I going to live in the woods in a tree because no one cares? There's not a balance yet. And the only thing that keeps me going is fighting for those people that I stay in touch with. I go to these events. We talk till 4 o'clock in the morning because they need me. And just like, Danielle, the course nurse, and Heather Hudson and Cody, we're family
Mhm.
along with many others. I'm not going to let any of them down. So I will sit there and knock down doors until they get the help they need. And I told them I would continue until I have no breath left.
And you know what? I believe that 100% about you because I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it through your life, for the time that I've known you. And I always, oh gosh, how does she keep going? How does she? I mean, I'm praying for you every day, but and I guess in that sense, that's what encourages me to keep showing up. I mean, because even for those, even not being injured, for those looking on, you're just like, um, you think there's no way I can't give up on these people. I can't do that. I can't just walk away. And so I can't even imagine what it's like living through the hell that you're living, everything, no insurance and how am I going to pay my rent and what happens when this gets used up and that's why we're going to keep fighting, right? That's why we're going to keep fighting. Um, was there anything else that you wanted to say? I'm going to put your GoFundMe in the show notes. I'll put Cody's Law in the show notes. I don't know if there's other ways people can connect with you or any final words that you would like to leave with the viewers.
At this point, we need everyone to speak out. Every friend, family, vaccine injured. If you don't have a voice, there's others that can be your voice. And the ones that can't speak now, please find your voice. We need more. If we have more in our army and our platoon, the more that we can get out, the more that we will get heard. Right now, it's time to start looking into, the legislation delegation meetings and stuff are going to be come up. See what's going in your county. Sign up for it. Speak.
Yes.
Be the voice that needs to be spoken. Get to other people. Let them go with you. Hit every city commission meeting. Hit every county commission meeting. Hit every ribbon. Any event, because they're out there trying to get their seats back or win their position back. So they're campaigning. It's time to get to every place. I don't care if they're at an ice cream store. I even hit up one place. They were holding up signs at the Chick-fil-A. So I parked my car and walked over there and said, I'm not handing a sign, but I'm going to talk to you. And it was to, one of the election people. And it sounds crazy. You may think you're crazy, but the more you're around there, the more they know that you're fighting for your life and they have respect for you.
You know what? You know what'd be really great is if we could come up with a brochure, like you could just hand to people, a little leaflet. So anytime we go anywhere, you can hand out something that shows these stories, just something little. I did this when I was at a county commissioners meeting. This was back in May, and then I had stopped at the store on the way home, and over the loudspeaker, the pharmacy was like, oh, come and get your COVID vaccine, and I just walked over there. I'd had my React 19 business cards, and I'm like, could I talk to the pharmacist, please? And I told them, I'm like, hey, you need to know that this is the reality, that when you give a vaccine, you have to have informed consent. And these are the risks that have taken place. And then I stopped at 6 other pharmacies on the way home. But it'd be so helpful to have just a little leaflet, that you could hand out. So there you are. I mean, I could so see you doing that just everywhere you go, because
Oh, I
you're
have.
very bold. You're very
I'm not
bold.
allowed to go through drive-throughs anymore. I'm not allowed to go into CVS, Walgreens, Sam's, even like at Publix. I was escorted out. They allowed me to come back in now. Just because I wear my shirt, I don't protest in there. But I call a patient, their customer ended up getting the COVID shot as I was walking around, and that I was going to be good, but I'd already been somewhere else to wear my shirt and I didn't change. After he got the shot and he stood up, I was walking around the corner and he saw me and he just got upset and he's like asking me a million questions. And because he ran up to me after he got the shot, they escorted me out of the store. That manager is no longer there because I told him I would put in a complaint against him because I was really just shopping. It's
I mean, and
just,
here's the thing, you're just looking for help. You're just like, I'm just looking for somebody to acknowledge me, and I'm just looking for help. And I don't think people understand. I mean, the mental anguish that somebody goes through when no one is listening and you're dying. I mean, in no
it's,
other disease, you could have I don't know if I mentioned this to somebody, but so I have a family member who recently went through cancer, and they went through the treatment and the prognosis looks good, and that's great, and I'm very happy for him. But he had every resource available to him. And then another family went out and raised like, $250,000 for this cancer treatment center, which is great. These are wonderful things. But I'm like, why can't the vaccine injured have that? Try to get on a golf course and raise $250,000 for the vaccine injured. It's not going to happen. And it needs to happen. when you get it, cancer or something, everybody's right there and the teams are there and people are wearing ribbons for you, and you have the exact opposite, and that needs to change. And I know Shelly's going to do it. And so
I
I
hope
do.
I do before I break or something happens, but
I I want to leave on those words of yours, and that is, I mean, I want to look in the camera, and that is, dig as deep as you can and get out there. And those are the words of Shelley that I would like to leave with all the viewers today. So, Shelley, thank you so much. Viewers, listeners, please check out the show notes. Please, if you can give anything, no matter how small, you can clearly see Shelley's going to use it. You can clearly see she needs it. She'll use it. She will steward everything well. Check out React 19 and the Care Fund. You can give to the Care Fund, and that goes out to, they give grants to anyone that they can, and the more money that comes in, it just goes right back out. Everybody's volunteer. Nobody's taking any money. It's all going out to the injured. So, Shelley, we're going to stay in touch. And we're going to have another update, and I hope that when we have the next update, we're going to hear just some amazing, amazing stories. So please know so many people do care about you and are praying for you and are just doing everything they can to get you heard. Thank you, Shelley.
thank you.